ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणि निर्विशेषाय शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जयो श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna and welcome you all to the Sadachar classes.
Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Okay. So somebody else dropped off, is it? Saurav Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Anyway, so last week we covered. We are actually covering the avatars, right? So last week we saw among the Dasa avatars, right? So last week we covered the Matsya, yeah, and then this week we'll be covering the Kurma avatar. Okay. So Kurma avatar has a lot of facets to it. Okay. So again, something in the form of a water animal. So the Lord incarnates, but in here, right? So there are. This is the one avatar, so wherein you'll find a lot of other, uh, say, incarnations also will be there in this. So there will be Dhanvantari and then Mohini Murti. There are a lot of things which will be coming out of in this Kurma Avatar. So here, right, with Kurma Avatar, we are even covering the churning of the milk ocean. So yeah, so this is an interesting avatar, and then yeah, it goes very nicely. But yes, we'll see through. Yeah, yeah. So today's avatar which we will discuss is about Kurma Avatar. Okay. So initially, right, so in this Kurma avatar, so we'll be actually looking into so different purports which give relevance. So these are all again from Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, so this is again the conversation between Parikshit Maharaj, right, and Sukadev Goswami. Yeah. So in here, right, so initially, say whatever we see, right, say these all purports and the shlokas, right? So these are from different chapters actually. So, but if you want the full incarnation details of Kurma Avatar, right? So that is in Canto 8. Okay. So, but yeah, so these are like in different sections, right? So whenever the discussion goes on between Parikshit Maharaj and Sukadev Goswami, right? So these are few of the things. These are basically, I think, few are touched at chapter 2, Canto 2, and even a few in Canto 5. Yeah. So these are basically during the conversation, like small talks, right? So what is the 11th incarnation type of things, right? So here, right? So this text goes as Sura Suranam Udhadim Mathanatam Mandrachalam Dadre Kamatarupena Prishta Ekadashe Vibhuhu. So the 11th incarnation of the Lord took the form of a tortoise. Yeah. So who shall? So herein, right? So this is the incarnation of the Lord, which is in the form of a tortoise. Yeah. So Kurma is nothing but tortoise. Who shall? So the back of the tortoise, right? The shell is served as a pivot for the Mandrachal hill. Yeah, which was being used as a churning rod by the theists and the atheists of the universe. So this is the background. Yeah. So this actually this is the starting, right, of the Kurma avatar. So how did this actually come in, right? So actually the story goes wherein the Durvasa Muni, right? So I'll just give you the intro part and then we'll go through the decks and all the things. But what happens is Durvasa Muni actually was passing by some place, and then what happened is Lord Indra. So Indra was actually was also coming, was also passing by. Okay, say and so they passed each other. So when they crossed in, right? So what Durvasa Muni did is, so he actually wanted to actually honor Indra. So Durvasa Muni actually gave him so one garland, one flower garland. Okay. So what happens is the flower garland. So instead of actually wearing it, right? So because so Durvasa Muni was expecting that so he'll offer. So when the garland is been given, right? So he'll actually honor it and then he'll wear it. So rather, what Indra did is because Indra was little bit puffed up, so he was sitting on the Airavat, right? So he actually kept it on Airavat. So Airavat didn't knew so what to do with that garland. So it actually pulled that garland and then it smashed in between her legs. Okay. So all these episode happened in front of Durvasa Muni. Yeah. And then Durvasa Muni got anger. Right. And then he cursed. So there he cursed Indra, saying that all the material opulences will be lost for the devatas. Okay. So this is the place due to this curse, right? What happened is slowly the devatas started losing the powers and the danavas, right? So danavas were becoming more prominent because due to this curse, so they became poverty stricken, and then even say they couldn't win the small wars. So basically, there is always something or the other. There are some fighting going on between both devatas and Danavas. So in those battles, right, so they were losing in, and even at that time, at that point in time, right, so Bali Maharaj was the king of the Asuras. Okay, so they were actually gaining the ground, and then the Devatas were losing the ground. So this is the intro. So from here, the things will start in. Okay, so the Lord actually goes in and what happens we'll see in through. Okay, we'll just cover these things. Yeah. So the revival Lord then assumed the tortoise incarnation in order to serve a resting place pivot for the Mandara mountain, which was acting as a churning rod. The demigods and demons were churning the ocean of milk with the Mandara mountain in order to extract nectar. Okay. So the mountain moved back and forth, scratching the back of Lord Tortoise, who, while partially sleeping, was experiencing an itching sensation. Yeah. So Sukadev Goswami continued in Hiranyamaya Varsha, the Supreme Lord Vishnu lies in the form of a tortoise, Kurma Sharira, the most dear and beautiful form, okay, of the Supreme Lord lies in the form of a tortoise. The most dear and beautiful form is always worshipped there in devotional service by Aryama, the chief resident of Hiranyamaya Varsha, along with the other inhabitants of that land, they chant the following hymns. Yeah. So this is the mantra which they actually chant. Okay. So, O my Lord, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, who have assumed the form of a tortoise. You are the reservoir of all transcendental qualities, and being entirely untinged by matter, you are perfectly situated in pure goodness. Yeah. You move here and there in the water, but no one can discern your position. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Because of your transcendental position, you are not limited by past, present, and future. You are present everywhere as the shelter of all things, and therefore I offer my respectful obeisances unto you again and again. So, this is what the shloka is which is being read. Okay. Yeah. So, we'll go into Kiran Prabhu. Would you like to read this? Hope this is visible, right? Or do you
It's
want me to
visible,
increase?
Prabhuji. Yeah. One
Okay,
second.
good.
Srimad Bhagavatam 8.5.15 to 16 purport. While Durvasa Muni was passing on the road, he saw Indra on the back of his elephant and was pleased to offer Indra a garland from his own neck. Indra, however, being too puffed up, took the garland without respect for Durvasa Muni. He placed it on the trunk of his carrier elephant. The elephant, being an animal, could not understand the value of the garland. Thus, it threw the garland, and thus the elephant threw the garland between its legs and smashed it. Seeing this insulting behavior, Durvasa Muni immediately cursed Indra to be stricken, bereft of all material opulence. Thus, demigods afflicted, afflicted on one side by fighting demons and other by the curse of Durvasa Muni, lost all the material opulences in the three worlds. When one is materially opulent, he should learn to be sober and well behaved towards Vaishnavas and saintly persons. Otherwise, he will fall down.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
So, this is what the intro which we were talking through, right? So, this is how the whole episode of the Kurma avatar started. Okay. So, with this, said the Devatas were actually losing their ground, and then we'll see next what happens. Yeah. Sorry. Hare Krishna, Shubhamai Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, shall I read?
Am I
Hare Krishna
audible,
Prabhu.
Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, shall I read?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. So today we have less attendance. So maybe can we take this next Saturday, Mataji?
Okay, Prabhuji. Next Saturday.
Yes, Mataji.
Okay, Prabhuji. Fine.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
So the demigods, having been cursed by Durvasa Muni, were defeated in battle by Asuras. So whenever there was a battle between the Asuras and Suras, right? So they were getting defeated. Yeah. So when the demigods were deprived of the heavenly kingdom, so slowly what happened is Bali Maharaj was conquering. Okay. So all the universe, right? So and then he actually conquered all the three worlds. Yeah. So they went. So what happened is now whenever so usually right. So whenever there is an major problem, right? So which the Devadas are not able to actually resolve, then they actually approach to Lord Brahma. So that's the thing, right? So ideally, that is something which everyone should do in right. So even if we have any problems which we are not able to resolve or we are bewildered with, right? So we'll have to go and ask help to our guru or elders. Yeah. So in the Vedic system, it was always there, and then say Devatas, they used to go to Lord Brahma, okay, and they'll tell upfront so whatever their problems were, right, and then they'll wait for Brahma's advice. So what will happen? So what should be done here? If Lord Brahma can solve the problem, right, he used to advise it. If not, right, then he'll take it forward with Lord Vishnu. Yeah. So that is the way things used to go. So even in our life also, we should actually do in the same way. So when we are bewildered, we should actually ask for help, or so we should seek guidance. Yeah. So they informed Lord Brahma, and then Brahma, along with all the demigods, went on to the shore of Ocean of King and offered prayers to Shirodaksha Vishnu. So what happened is here, because Lord Brahma is the creator, right? And then so he has to look in for the welfare, right? So he was not happy with what has happened, right? So listening all these things, right? So and then this needed an intervention of Lord Vishnu. So usually they go to the Shirodaksha Vishnu, yeah. So and then they pray there, uh, and depending upon so the prayers and they ask, right, so they get a response. Okay, the same thing happens here. So Praveen Prabhu, you want to read this?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Uh, because of the prayers offered by
Prabhuji, your voice
demigods,
is too low.
because of the prayers offered by the demigods, Lord Shiradakshina Vishnu was pleased with the demigods, and thus he appeared before them. The demigods were almost blinded by the transcendental bodily effluence. At first, therefore, they could not even see any part of his body. After some time, however, when Brahma could see the Lord, he, along with Lord Shiva, began to offer the Lord prayers. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. So what happened is all the devatas, so along with Lord Brahma and Shiva, right, they went and then they prayed at the to Lord Shirodaksha Vishnu, and then the Lord has a lot of effulgence, right? So initially, everyone couldn't see them. So the Lord slowly revealed to Lord Brahma and then Shiva, and then others. Yeah, and they actually put the case forward, saying that what has happened, right? And then the Devatas are actually deprived of the power and all. They inform, and then we'll see that what the Lord instructs them. Okay. When offered prayers by Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead was pleased. Okay. So then Lord Vishnu was pleased, and then he gave appropriate instructions to all the demigods. Then he gave the plan of actions. Okay. So although the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the master of the demigod, was capable of performing the activities of the demigod by himself, he wanted to enjoy pastimes in churning the ocean. Therefore, he spoke as follows. Say, the Lord is the creator, right? See, he could have actually sent any of his associates to fix this problem. Yeah? But he wanted to enjoy. So this pastime. Hence, he had created a plan. So he'll give the plan of action. So he'll say that you go and actually make a truce with the demons. Yeah? And he'll tell the devatas that what all things will be coming out, and then you should not get agitated. I'll be supporting you. Yeah? And say he'll just say that you'll have will do whatever I have said, and say the devatas actually hear to that piece of advice, and then they actually do whatever was being said. Yeah. Yeah. Kirtan Prabhu, can you read this, please?
Yes, Prabhuji. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is known as Ajita, unconquerable, advised the demigods to make a peace proposal to the demons, so that after formulating a truce, the demigods and demons could churn the ocean of milk. O demigods, cast into the ocean of milk all kinds of vegetable, grass, creepers, and drugs. Then, with my help, making Mandara mountain the churning rod and Vasuki the rope for churning, churn the ocean of milk with undiverted attention. Many other attractive things would be generated by the churning, but the Lord warned the demigods not to be captivated by such things. Nor should the demigod be angry if there was some disturbance. After advising the demigods in this way, the Lord disappeared from the scene.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So
Hare
this
Krishna
is
Prabhu.
the plan of action. Okay. So the Lord said that so go and actually have a truce, right? He said that uh, go and speak to the demons. Okay. So and then formulate a truce, saying that we'll churn the milk ocean. Okay. So the Devtas actually approached King Gali Maharaj, and then say they actually uh, had a dealing set. So they went for a peace proposals, and then that was accepted, saying that we'll churn the milk ocean, and then we'll actually get nectar out of it. Okay, and then that nectar would be equally distributed among the devatas, right? Devatas and the demigods. Okay, so the deal was set, and then so for that, right? So the Lord mentioned that there is an hill called Mandara Hill. Yeah. So that hill will act as the churning rod. Okay. And the other thing is the rope, Vasuki, the snake, right? So that would be used as a rope to churn the rod. Yeah. So, and the Lord said, right, in between, right? So when the churning process happens, right? So there will be of this milk ocean, right? So there will be a lot of things coming out. Also like poison, gems, nectar, beautiful woman, yeah. And, and so the Lord mentioned that so though these things look to be very attractive, so he said that don't be greedy of it, right? And wait patiently for the nectar to come. So the nectar will not come initially. So because the whole purpose, so the aim is to actually drink that nectar. Yeah. So that was the thing which was being informed. And so actually Prabhupada actually writes a very good example. Say it's a truce, right? So what is that? Is nothing but once an example is cited of an snake and a mouse. Okay. So they were actually caught in a basket, right? So, but if you look in, right, the mouse is the food for the snake, right? So this was the great opportunity for snake also, right? So it can readily eat that, right? But since they were both caught in the basket, right? If the snake eats the mouse, right, the snake cannot come out, right? So therefore, they had a truce between them, and then what the mouse and snake agreed is that the mouse will make a hole in the basket so that both could get out, right? So the actual intention was that of the snake was that once the snake is out of the hole, right, the snake would eat the mouse, right? So this is basically the logic of the snake and mouse, right? So that is what, say, at times, right? So we'll have to say always the things might not be on our side, and so to get a win-win situation or to win, right? So we'll have to actually make some kind of engagement with the opposite party. Yeah. So that was what being advised, and then the Lord advised that do not get disturbed with anything. Yeah. So following the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the demigods established a peace with Bali Maharaj, the king of the demons. Yeah. Then both demons and demigods started for the ocean, taking Mandara mountain. Yes, the Mandara mountain was made of gold. Yeah. And then gold is much more heavy than stone. So metal wise, right? It's much heavy. So what happened is in between, right? So all the Devatas and Danavas, right? So they were tired, and then so they couldn't lift that mountain, and they couldn't place it. Okay. So it actually, few of them got smashed also. Um, in between while carrying that mountain, and then they got fatigued, and say it was kind of impossible for them to actually lift that mountain. So what happens is again the Lord comes in. So here the Lord actually maintains, right? So he came, and then he actually picked up the mountain on one hand, and then so with the help of Garuda, right, he took all the devatas and Danavas to the milk ocean, right? And then he dropped that mountain there, and then he said, Garuda to leave. Okay. So this is what we'll read now. Then both the demons and demigods started for the ocean, taking Mount Mandara mountain with them. Because of the great heaviness of the mountain, the demigods and demons became fatigued, and some of them actually died. Okay, so then the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, appeared there on the back of his carrier, Garuda, and by his mercy, he brought these demigods and demons back to life. So even he brought them back to life. So those who were dead, right? The Lord then lifted the mountain with one of his hand and placed in the back of Garuda. The Lord sat on the mountain and was carried to the spot of the churning by Garuda, who placed the mountain near the sea. So then the Lord asked Garuda to leave the place, because Vasuki would be used now, right? So because Vasuki would be used to actually churn the rod, right? So and here, right, if you look in, right, so Garuda and Vasuki, right? So Garuda is a bird, right? So and then so they both cannot exist in one place, right? Because so Vasuki is, so if Garuda would like to eat snakes and all, right? So hence, so Garuda was being told to move, because Vasuki is action has to be started next. Yeah, next action was with Vasuki. So by the expert arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the demons held the snake near the mouth, whereas the demigods held the tail of the great snake. So here also, that's not been discussed, but if you read the purports and all, right, so it's been mentioned that initially uh, the Devatas are actually holding the mouth of Vasuki, and the demons were actually holding the tail. Okay, so then the demons felt that uh, so tail is not that great part of an animal, and so the head is the better part to catch. So then, okay, so then the demigod said it's okay, because they knew, right? Whatever it is, the Lord had already instructed them not to fight for anything, right? So then they swapped the places. So the demons were catching the head portion of the Vasuki for churning the rod, and the Devatas were actually holding the tail portion of it, right? And then they started pulling, right, with Vasuki, and so when they started churning, right, so there was no balance, and it started dipping. So this mountain, right, so the mountain didn't have proper balance. Yeah. So then what happens is the Lord actually takes the shape of an tortoise, and then he becomes the base of that particular mountain. Yeah. So because the churning rod, Mandara mountain was very heavy and was not able and was not held by any support in the water, it sank into the ocean. And in this way, the prowess of both the demons and demigods was vanquished. So basically, with this pulling of these things, right? So it actually was sinking. Okay. Seeing the situation that had been created by the will of the Supreme, the Lord, the Supreme, will of the Supreme, the unlimitedly powerful Lord, whose determination is infallible, took the wonderful shape of tortoise, yeah, and entered the water and lifted the great Mandara mountain. So in between, so what happened is when they were churning also, right? So the Vasuki, so which was being used as a rope, right? So it was also because it was being pulled here and there, right? So it was also emitting a lot of poison and all, right? So it was also because they are actually using it, right? So it was also generating so out of his breathing and all, right? So all those gases kind of things were coming out. Okay, so we covered this. Okay, sorry, this one. Okay, Sunita Mataji, do you want to read this, please? Hare Krishna. Okay, maybe Praveen Prabhu, you can go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Here is evidence that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the supreme controller of everything. It was by His will that there were hindrances, and by His will those hindrances were removed. The Lord appeared as a tortoise to support the great mountain uh, Shirtha Viplat. The Lord held the great mountain on his back. Dangers can be created by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they can also be removed by Him. This is known to devotees, but demons cannot understand it. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. So in this episode, right, so the Lord actually became say the pivot, right? So on top of it, these things, this got rested, and then so with the base platform, right? So now they could actually churn it, right? And then I believe this particular form, right? So it was almost 800 miles, is what, if I recollect properly, right? So that was the size of the tortoise, yeah. And then now the churning started, you see. So herein, right? So this was, so you see, Vasuki was emitting all. It was hissing, and then so it was breathing heavily, and then they all were actually becoming black with it. Yeah, so the churning had started. Yeah. Now we'll further see what all came in. Yeah. So now Ajita, right? So now the Lord also comes in. Okay. So when the demigods and the demons saw that Mandara mountain has been lifted, they were enlivened and encouraged to begin churning again. The mountain rested on the back of the great tortoise, which extended, 800,000 miles. Okay, I said 800 miles, but it is 800,000 miles, like a large island. Okay, this is something Bhagavatam says. Yeah. O king, when the demigods and demons, by the strength of their arms, rotated Mandara mountain on the back of the extraordinary tortoise, the tortoise accepted the rolling of the mountain as a means of scratching his body, and thus he felt a pleasing sensation. Yeah. So this was, so all this heavy material which was being put, and say the churning was going on, right? So the Lord was enjoying. So he was half sleep, and then he was feeling something, some pleasing sensation at the back. Okay. Yeah. Kirtan Prabhu, can you read this, please?
Yes, Prabhuji. Srimad Bhagavatam 8.7.12. Ma- Manifesting himself with thousands of hands, the Lord then appeared on the summit of Mandara mountain, like another great mountain, and held Mandara mountain with one hand. Purport: to balance Mandara mountain while it was being pulled from both sides, the Lord himself appeared on its summit like another great mountain. Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and King Indra then expanded themselves and showered flowers on the Lord. Srimad Bhagavatam 8.7.16. When nectar did not come out from the ocean of milk, despite so much endeavor by the best of demigods and demons, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Ajita, personally began to churn the ocean. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So this is what next happened. Yeah. So the Lord actually personally came and then sat on top of the mountain, and now, right? So as nothing was coming out of the churning, right? The Lord now took the in charge as Ajita. So he took the form of Ajita, and then he also started pulling. He was also doing the churning. So now we will slowly see that things will come out. So what all the products which came, okay, from the churning of the milk ocean, okay. So the first thing which will come is halahal, okay, so which is nothing but the poison, okay. So after, so this is what it was being told also by the Lord, right? So that whatever churn things would come in, right, don't get disturbed, right? So, so now we'll see that what is coming out. Okay? So as a result of churning, a huge amount of poison was produced. So this is nothing but halal. So this is something initially, uh, this is what it got generated. Okay. So it's called actually Kalakuta poison. Yeah. So that was being generated. So seeing that, right, the Prajapati is seeing no one else to save them, right, because everything was getting poisonous, right. So the Prajapatis actually went to Lord Shiva, and then they offered their prayers, saying that so this is the situation, and someone needs to actually bring this under control. Okay. So now Lord Shiva is called Ashutosha because he is being pleased. So he's very pleased if he's very easily pleased by the devotees. Yeah. So when the devotees went and then they prayed and then they said that we need a savior, right? So then in there, right? Lord Shiva agrees, okay, that he'll drink all the poison which was generated. Yeah. So he actually drinks the poison. Okay. So, and even he informs his better half, right? So goddess Durga, so Bhavani, and then she was not at all disturbed with this because she knew the power of Lord Shiva, and then she was expressing pleasure at this, and then she never said that don't drink and all those things, right? So with this, what happened is the color of the neck portion, the throat portion of Shiva got changed. Yeah. So the reason why he did is because if you look in, right, so uh, all the elevated souls or the Vaishnavas, right, so they are all paradukhi dukhi, right? So if they see, right, so if anyone is actually uh, say if there are any living beings or someone, right, so who is actually uh, if they are in pain, right, they are they feel that pain. Yeah. So and then they'll try to relieve that pain. Yeah. So for that they may go to any of the extremes. Yeah. But for that we should have to be elevated. Yeah. So here, therefore, Lord Shiva easily agreed to drink all the poison generated by the churning. Yeah. And then the goddess Durga Bhavani, the wife of the Lord Shiva, was not at all disturbed when Lord Shiva agreed to drink the poison. For she knew Lord Shiva's prowess. Indeed, she expressed her pleasure at this agreement. Then Lord Shiva gathered the devastating poison which was everywhere. Okay, and then he drank. So what happened is a small quantity, okay, of the poison got dropped from his hand while drinking, right? And so what happened is all the toxic animals like scorpions, toxic plants, and other poisons, right? So they actually and so they took it. So hence the reason we have all this toxic plants and animals. Yeah. So it all generated from there. Okay. Yeah. So then what happens is after the Lord Shiva drank all the poison, both the demigods and demons took courage and resumed their activities of churning. So because the churning was completed, right? So because the poison was not there, right? So they again uh, beefed up and then they started the churning. Because of churning, first a Surabhi cow was produced. Great saintly persons accepted this cow to derive clarified butter from this milk and offer this clarified butter in oblations for great sacrifices. So this was taken up by the sages. The sages took the um, Surabhi cow, right? So do you know where the Surabhi cows are found? Kirtan Prabhu, you know?
Prabhuji, could you repeat the question again?
So where do we find the Surabhi cows?
No, Prabhuji, I don't know.
I said that it's there in Goloka. Yeah. So with because Krishna has all Surabhi cows which give unlimited milk. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, Prabhuji.
Okay. Yeah. Hare Krishna, Sunita Mataji, do you want to read this slide? No. Okay. Kirtan Prabhu, you can go ahead with this.
Okay, Prabhuji. Therefore, a horse named
Thereafter. Yeah. Good.
thereafter, a horse named
Uchai
Ukai
Sharva.
Ukaisharva was generated. This horse was taken by Bali Maharaja. Then there appeared Ariva,
Airavata.
Airavata Airavata, and other elephants that could go anywhere in any direction. And she elephants also appeared. The gem known as Kastuba was also generated, and Lord Vishnu took the gem and placed it on his chest. Thereafter, a Parijata flower and the Apsaras, the most
Apsaras, yeah.
beautiful the most beautiful women in the universe, were generated.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Vishnu.
Suppose that what happened is first we got the Airavata, right? Sorry, so we got the Surabhi cow, and then say, a white color horse came in. Yeah, so which is Ucheshwara. So basically, um, because there was the Lord had mentioned, right? So not to argue for anything. So Bali Maharaj actually wanted this, so he took away. Else, it would have been that Lord Indra would actually taken this. But yeah, so there was no arguments. Bali Maharaj wanted, so it was given to him. Post that there were Airavatas which came in, and then Kaustubha jewel, right? So it also got generated. So which actually the Lord took, and then he put it in his near his chest. And then there are Parijata flowers followed by the Apsaras which were bought. And Parijata flowers are basically, yeah. And then followed by that, right? So the goddess of fortune Lakshmi appeared. Okay, so there is full description of this, right, in the Srimad Bhagavatam cantos, but yeah, so that's been cut short here, right? So when goddess of fortune Lakshmi appeared, right, so she actually saw both the parties, the devatas and the danavas, but so no one was befitting her. And then, so we all know, right, so she is part and parcel of the Lord. So so she chose Lord Vishnu, right, to be her master. And then her so her place is in the chest of Lord Vishnu, right? And then the goddess of fortune Lakshmi appeared. The demigods, great sages, Gandharvas, and others offered her their respectful worship. The goddess of fortune could not find anyone to accept her as an husband. So because there were Danavas and all, right? So nobody has those six opulences, right? So except the Lord. So only Bhagavan has all those capabilities. So and at last she selected Lord Vishnu to be her master. Yeah. So and Vishnu gave her an everlasting place at his chest. Okay. Because of the combination of Lakshmi and Narayana, all who were present, including the demigods and people in general, were very pleased. So we know that they both are we cannot actually have only Narayana. It will be Lakshmi and Narayana, right? So even if somebody wants to take away, so he'll face the consequences, right? So it was like Mother Sita, right? So Sita and Ram, right? So you cannot make them apart, right? So when Ravana tried, so you saw the consequences, right? So the demons, however, being neglected by the goddess of fortune, were very depressed, and that's obvious, right? So goddess of fortune will not go to the demons. And then what happens is in the process of the churning, right? Varuni, okay. So Varuni also came in, right? So which the Lord actually handed it over to the demons. Okay, so he handed it over to the demons because the lotus-eyed goddess, right? Varuni is the goddess who controls drunkards. Yeah. So with the permissions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the demons headed by Bali Maharaj took the possession, okay, of the Varuni. And then next comes in Dhanvantari. Yeah. So this is the part of nectar which comes in next. So this is also an incarnation of the Lord. Then the demons and the demigods with renewed energy began to churn again. This time, a partial incarnation of the Lord Vishnu called Dhanvantri appeared. Uh, he was very beautiful, and he carried a jug containing the nectar. So this was the jug, okay, so which had all all that was required. Yeah. The demons immediately snatched the jug from Dhanvantri's hand and began to run away. So the moment they saw the nectar which came out of, right, so the demons actually snatched it. So as it was being instructed by the Lord, right, so not to fight, right, so the demigods didn't fight, the devatas didn't fight. And then what happened is, once this jug went into the hands of the demons, right, they started fighting among themselves, so as to who will drink it, eh? And then who will become powerful. So that is what the material world is also, right? So everyone wants to enjoy the material life, right? So they were not peaceful, so they were not allowing anyone to drink also, so neither they could distribute among themselves. Yeah, so there was a fight which was going on. Yeah. And the other hand, the demigods were morose, right, and then they took the shelter of Vishnu. And so this fighting was happening. So next what happens is, Mohini Murti will enter. Yeah. So the Lord actually calms down the devatas, and then he's he appears, he incarnates as Mohini Murti. So he turns into a very beautiful woman of, so in the universe. Yeah. So and then he so once the demons see the Mohini Murti, right, everyone gets attracted, and then they'll say that they're totally captivated because it's the Lord himself, right? So with his spell, right, so everyone, all the demons get attracted, and then they say that, so you solve this problem, because and then she takes the nectar, okay, uh, and then what happens we'll see next, okay. So Lord Vishnu solaces the demigods, who therefore did not fight but remained silent. Yeah. While fighting was going on, the demons, the Lord himself appeared as the incarnation Mohini, the most beautiful woman in the universe. Yeah. See, all the demons became captivated by the young woman's beauty and became attached to her. Okay. So now, because the demons were fighting among themselves to possess the nectar, they selected the beautiful woman as a mediator to settle the quarrel. So they wanted to settle. So what Mohini Murthy will say that, so taking this as an advantage, right? She'll say that whatever she decides, right? So they'll have to agree in. Okay. Even if if they feel that there is an injustice which is happening, right? They should not actually uh, voice out, or they should not actually fight for it. Okay. So she said that um, if they agree for that, then they all agreed it, because it was Lord who was talking, right? So and uh, so whatever she was talking, so it was like a nectar for them, right? So and so they agreed, okay. And actually what happened is, suppose that she actually arranges them to sit in both, she arranges both demons and the devatas to sit, okay. And then she actually first approaches the demons, and then she satisfies them with sweet words, right? So she goes there and then uh, tells them some sweet words, and then okay, she she cheats them, and then on the other side, right, when she comes towards the devatas, right, she gives the nectar, okay. And then this thing continue. Yeah? So taking the advantage of their weakness, In regard, Mohini, the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, got the demons to promise that whatever decisions he might give, they would not refuse to accept it. Okay, so this was the thing. So when the demons made this promise, the beautiful woman Mohini Murti had the demigods and demons sit in different lines so that she could distribute the nectar. She knew that this is not fit for the demon, so she gave it to the demigods. And then but the demons saw the cheating and then they remained silent because that was the agreement with Mohini Murti, right? But in between, what happens is one of the demon named Rahu, right? So he sits between the sun and moon. Okay, he actually disguises himself and then he sits in between. Okay, so to actually he got to know and then he changes it and then he wanted to get the nectar. So what happens at that moment, right? Because Mohinimurti is none other than the Lord Hari, right? He uses his disk chakra and then he cuts the head of Rahu. Okay. So but the Rahu, right? So the Rahu's head was served from his body, but it got touched with the nectar, right? So as he was touched by the nectar, right, he became immortal. Thus, actually, Brahma, the Lord Brahma, actually accepted Rahu's head as one of the planets. Okay, so that's the story of Rahu, and then since then he is the enemy of both sun and moon, right? And then he tries to attack them during the nights of full moon day and dark moon. Yeah. So that's the story. So with that, yeah, yeah. So that's what been said. Rahu's head, however, having been touched by the nectar, became immortal. Thus, Brahma accepted Rahu's head as one of the planets. Since Rahu is an eternal enemy of the moon and sun, he always tries to attack them on the nights and on the full moon. Yeah. So after the demigods finished drinking the nectar, the Supreme Personality of Godhead assumed his own form. Yeah. The place, the time, the cause, the purpose, the activity, and the ambitions were all the same for both the demigods and the demons, but the demigods achieved one result and the demons another. So this is what the conclusion is, right? So the place or ambitions were, everything was same, but the intentions were different, right? So the demons didn't have the positive intentions, right? So that's what happened, right? Even if you look in the battle of Kurukshetra, right? So both had armies, right? Pandavas had armies, Kauravas had armies, but the ambitions were different, right? Even the Kauravas had bigger armies compared to the Pandavas, right? So, because the demigods are always under the shelter of the dust of Lord's lotus feet, they could very easily drink the nectar and get its result. The demons, however, not having sought shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord, were unable to achieve the result they desired. So, same thing happened there also, right? So, if you look in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, so the Pandavas were actually the they were under the shelter of the Lord, right? So that's the reason they could win there. Similarly, here also, right? So the Devatas were actually under the shelter of the Lord, hence there was victory for them. O King, after the Supreme Personality of God had brought the completion, the affairs of churning the ocean and feeding the nectar to the demigods who are his dear devotees, he left the presence of them all and was carried by Garuda to his own abode. Yeah. So with this, we end today's session. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So we'll end this session for today. Thank you for your association.
Hare
Vancha
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarobhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnebhyo namo namo. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.